Alright, let's dive straight in because today is genuinely special. I've got something here that you're extremely unlikely to see anywhere else on YouTube, or really anywhere outside of Jacob & Co. boutique. This is the Jacob & Co. Casino Tourbillon in white gold, and from what I understand, this might be the first, and possibly only, real hands-on YouTube review of this watch. Jacob & Co. almost never lets these watches out of their sight, or out of their boutiques, making this deep dive feel pretty surreal. Let me set the stage briefly. Jacob & Co. has always been a brand that's deliberately provocative. Whether you love or hate their style, you can't deny they consistently push the boundaries of what's considered possible in horology. The Casino Tourbillon is a prime example of that ethos. First things first, this isn't your typical luxury watch. It isn't something you'd casually strap on for brunch or slip under your sleeve at a board meeting. It's bold, it's extravagant, and it's unapologetically attention-grabbing. But here's what I find genuinely fascinating. Beyond the flashiness, there's real mechanical innovation happening here, and that's exactly why I wanted a chance to review it. Holding it or wearing it for the first time, you immediately notice its presence. Solid 18 karat white gold is just very substantial and heavy. At 44 millimeters, this isn't a small piece. But interestingly, Jacob & Co. has managed to keep it relatively balanced on the wrist. It doesn't feel overwhelming or excessively bulky. And this is especially compared to some of their other watches. There's a comfort to it that I honestly didn't expect. Now, let me get into the most noticeable part of the Casino Tourbillon, the roulette wheel dial. I'll be honest, when I first heard about this watch, my gut reaction was ambivalent. I thought, is this another gimmicky novelty? But then I pressed the button at 8 o'clock, watched the roulette wheel spin smoothly, observed the ceramic ball bouncing around before settling into its pocket, and I thought, okay, this is actually pretty cool and fun. The mechanics feel precise and fluid, and it's genuinely enjoyable to interact with. Is it kind of like an expensive fidget spinner? Maybe. Does anyone really need a working roulette wheel in their watch? Of course not. But watches, especially at this level, aren't about necessity. They're about passion and maybe a bit of sheer mechanical indulgence. Taking a closer look at the craftsmanship of the roulette wheel dial, you'll notice that each pocket is carefully constructed and precisely colored, mirroring the authentic look of a casino roulette table. The main time dial is black onyx. It not only adds a layer of sophistication, but its fairly sterile look makes sure not to distract from the roulette wheel automation. I know Jacob & Co. offers this watch with a dial full of diamonds and gems, but to be honest, the variation without any diamonds is much more appealing to me. Another really interesting about this watch is showcased on its case back. Flip the watch over and you'll discover the flying tourbillon. Typically, tourbillons are prominently featured on the dial of a watch. It's part of the appeal. Brands want you to see the complexity front and center. But Jacob & Co. went against the grain here. They placed their tourbillon discreetly on the case back, obviously prioritizing the roulette wheel and keeping the watch incredibly legible. It's a pretty risky and bold decision, but one that speaks volumes about the brand's confidence and vision in this watch. It's as if they're saying, sure, we have a beautiful tourbillon, but have you seen this roulette wheel? Interestingly, this decision to hide the tourbillon makes the watch fairly understated, at least by Jacob & Co. standards. Most Jacob & Co. watches are famously flashy, often showcasing their tourbillons prominently. This subtle choice isn't typical for them. Other prestigious brands like Patek Philippe occasionally conceal tourbillons, revealing them only through the case back, but I genuinely can't think of another Jacob & Co. watch employing this approach. This understated design decision lets the roulette automation take center stage. Getting deeper into the mechanics of the watch, movement inside, the manual wind caliber JCAM 51 is equally impressive. It has 268 individual parts and a robust 72-hour power reserve. And unlike many of Jacob & Co.'s other pieces, the only part of the movement you can see is the tourbillon, which again is visible through the case back. As I said, this is surprisingly reserved for the brand, but it's nice to see them do something somewhat unexpected. But while the watch is much more reserved than many of the brand's other offerings, it is still plenty unconventional. Winding the watch and setting the time aren't done through a traditional crown. They're actually achieved using two clever fold-out tabs on the case back. One tab is specifically for winding the watch, and the other is for setting the time. Both fold neatly into the case back, maintaining the watch's clean, uninterrupted profile. It can take a little getting used to, and may not be the easiest method to wind the watch or set the time, but that's not really the point. Additionally, constantly turning the watch over while you set the time to get the time just right isn't the most intuitive. But I completely understand why Jacob & Co. did it this way. It keeps the dialing case symmetrical with the roulette wheel as the main focus. Additionally, this winding and setting mechanism is used in many other of the brand's offerings and highlights Jacob & Co.'s willingness to challenge traditional watch design conventions. On the wrist, the Casino Tourbillon undeniably makes a statement, but surprisingly, it's comfortable enough to wear, but it is weighty. Paired with the black alligator strap and a white gold clasp, this overall package feels well thought out and cohesive. Jacob & Co. clearly understands here that if you're going to make a watch that demands attention, it also needs to deliver in terms of comfort and practicality, at least within its own lavish context. Let me talk about practicality in real-world usability. Is it practical? Maybe not, but again, that's besides the point. This watch isn't competing with practical pieces. It's not a tool watch. It exists in its own category. It's for the collector who has experienced almost everything else and now seeks something extraordinary and conversational. It's more about fun and having something completely new and different in your watch. Within Jacob & Co.'s lineup, the Casino Tourbillon seems to fit pretty well. This isn't their first adventure into unconventional complications. They've previously created watches featuring musical boxes, astronomical displays, and intricate automations. The Casino Tourbillon feels like a natural continuation of this playful exploration into mechanical creativity. It reflects Jacob & Co.'s unapologetic approach to design and their desire to provide experiences, not just timepieces. The packaging experience is worth mentioning too. This watch comes housed in a beautifully crafted presentation box, lined in red velvet, making it probably the most over-the-top part of the experience, even more so than the watch. Everything about this watch, from unboxing to putting it on your wrist, feels deliberate and thoughtfully curated. Let me briefly compare the Casino Tourbillon with other unique luxury pieces on the market. Unlike brands that focus solely on traditional complications like perpetual calendars or chronographs or even minute repeaters, Jacob & Co. specializes in spectacular attention-grabbing pieces. Their watches don't just stand apart, they practically define their own category. It's a combination of entertainment, fine craftsmanship, and mechanical ingenuity that really distinguishes it from the rest of the world of luxury watches. Finally, after spending some substantial time with it, here's my honest perspective. Do I personally need this watch? Maybe not. But do I really appreciate and understand why someone might fall in love with it? Absolutely. It's audacious, yet innovative, and refuses to play by anybody else's rules. And let me tell you, this watch sparked curiosity instantly. I happened to have this watch in for review at the same time as the Horological Society of New York's annual gala. Since I was attending, I decided to wear it. And even though people were wearing some of the rarest and most expensive watches in the world, the Casino Tourbillon probably generated the most questions and comments. This watch drew interest from seasoned collectors and more casual enthusiasts alike, highlighting its unique ability to capture attention even among the most knowledgeable watch collectors. For those of you wondering, the Jacob & Co. Casino Tourbillon in white gold is limited to 101 pieces and retails for $296,000. And now, I'm genuinely curious, what's your take? Is this crossing into absurdity, or is it a genuinely great watch? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this rare deep dive, please subscribe because I have a lot more content coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.